Hello again and welcome to What the Papers Are Saying, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. On What the Papers Are Saying, we'll give you the analysis, the discussions and the conversations on the stories as presented by our colleagues within the media space. A number of issues have dominated media discussions in the course of the week. I'm very much aware, of the Pandai issue, where the High Court in Tamale has ruled that there should be a rerun of the 2024 parliamentary election in the Kpandai constituency. The Electoral Commission has announced that on the 30th of December this year, there's going to be a rerun of the Pandai election in that constituency. The minority and the MPP are vehemently against this decision of the Electoral Commission to set a date for this rerun to take place. There's debate in Parliament. The minority in the House is against it. The MPP as a political party is against it. But then the MPP says that they filed a number of suits at the High Court and the Supreme Court, hoping that it will go their favor. And if that is done, they may not, or there won't be the need for a rerun. But yet the party is yet to take a decision as to whether to contest the Pandai elections or not. So when this issue broke out, that is how the Daily Guide newspaper reported it. It says EC set December 30th for Kpandai elections rerun. Lady graphic, Pandai seat create chaos in Parliament. The Custodian newspaper says withdraw Pandai seat vacancy letter to EC, minority tells Bagwin. And then City Newsroom, Pandai rerun threatens Ghana's democratic integrity. Dr. Muhammad Abomia, MPP presidential candidate in the last election. Also this week, the conversation which started last week also continued this week has to do with the scrapping of the office of the special prosecutor. The conversation started in Parliament, where majority members in the House were pushing for the office of the special prosecutor to be scrapped. Now, the minority also had a say in this matter. Two NDC members of Parliament in the leadership side of the majority, talking about the majority leader Muhammad Ayariga and the majority chief whip Roxy Nelson Dafia Mekpo, say that they are filing a private member's motion, which will see to the repeal of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill Act 959. And when the story broke out, this is how the Daily Graphic newspaper published it. It says calls to scrap OSP premature, President John Dramani Mahama. The Chronicle newspaper says OSP scares politicians. Two NDC MPs initiate move to scrap it. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, Interior Minister orders probe into alleged assassination attempt on SP. And Channel 1 News says Mahama directs majority leadership to withdraw bill to scrap OSP. Also this week, there were news of a more or less like a diplomatic war between Ghana and Israel. And this is how the Daybreak newspaper publishes the story. It says, Ghana deports 3 Israelis in retaliatory move. City Newsroom says, diplomatic retaliation, Ghana deports 3 Israeli citizens. Also this week, we heard of news of a coup attempt in Benin, neighboring Benin. And this is how City Newsroom published the story. It says, Benin coup Benin coup thwarted by loyalist troop, president tells nation. The new publisher says, ECOWAS declares state of emergency in West Africa region. And the Ghanaian Times says, political instability in West Africa makes us vulnerable, President John Dramani Mahama. This week as well, but the conversation started last week, had to do with the increment of utility by the Public Utility Regulatory Commission. The Daily Guide newspaper is still on this, and this is how it published the story. It says, minority TUC reject utility tariff hike. The Informer newspaper says, organized labor fights PURC over tariff hike. Describe action as disrespectful. And Channel 1 News says, PURC $320 million needed to cut utility losses. So these are our colleagues within the media space told us how the stories in the course of the week were published in their newspapers and their online portals. We'll go for a break. When we come back, we'll have a conversation on these issues.
This Christmas Eve, skip the ordinary and step into the extraordinary. Welcome to the Situation All-White Party 2025, where the music never stops, the energy never drops, and the fun never ends. Celebrating grand style with great music, irresistible food, and an atmosphere that screams good vibes only. Date 24th December 2025. Venue Good Park near the Accra Mall. Time 8 p.m. till late. Dress code, it's an all-white affair. Get ready for electrifying live performances from Kofi Kinata, in Chin Chin Band, and DJ Mingle. Your best all-white fit. Bring your dancing shoes and let's light up the night together. Book your tables now. Call 0205-973-973 or 0558-973-973. It's Christmas Eve. Don't miss it. The Situation All-White Party 2025 is powered by Channel 1 TV and 97.3 City FM, and it's proudly sponsored by Kpandai, Bethel Logistics, and Hallmark Cafe, and supported by Oswald Investments Limited.
The people of the Pandai constituency in the northern region may have a new member of parliament or retain the incumbent member of parliament for the area, Kpandai, because the Electoral Commission says on the 30th of December this year it's going to organize fresh elections in that constituency. It comes on the back of a Tamale High Court that ordered a rerun of the 2024 parliamentary election in the Kpandai constituency. The MPP and the minority in parliament vehemently opposed this particular move, and the decision even for the Electoral Commission to set a date when the party says already they've filed processes at the High Court and the Supreme Court to ensure that what the High Court in Tamale did was wrong as far as the law is concerned. The MPP held a press conference this week, addressed by the national organizer of the party, Henry Nana Boakye, and says that the party is fully behind the incumbent member of parliament for the area, Kpandai, and that they will go with him wherever he was as far as this issue is concerned. Also, the party's presidential candidate for the 2024 general election, and who is also campaigning to lead the party into the election of 2028, Dr. Muhammad Bawumia, has also been speaking on the Kpandai matter. He says, why the rush for the Electoral Commission to declare the seat vacant when the party is in court over the matter?
The New Patriotic Party stands as one solid rock behind the Member of Parliament for Pandai, Honorable Martin Nyindam. His fight is our fight. His cause is our cause. And his cause will be the cause of every New Patriotic Party member.
To say the least, very, very disappointed in what is going on in our country. It looks like our institutions of democracy and our tenets of democracy are being undermined. The issue of Pandai with Matthew Nyindam is not a new issue in our democratic politics. You've had issues with Dana Bodakpi, you've had issues with Techi Kweston, in Asin, and basically you've had the House allow the court and the legal processes to take place and be exhausted. before state institutions are stampeded into acting in ways that undermine democracy. Matthew Nyundam should be given his day in court. He has filed appeal processes at the High Court. He has filed for a judicial review at the Supreme Court, and none of those cases has been adjudicated. So why the rush? Why the indecent haste? I think that he's being railroaded. I think that this undermines our institutions of democracy. I think that we should take a halt to these processes and allow him to have his day in court, just as others have done in the past. The House has never really rushed in this way when it came to the other cases. What is the difference with the case of Matthew Nyundam? I think it should not be this case. I think we should uphold the tenets of democracy. Democracy is something precious that we've all had and we've all subscribed to. When you start undermining its pillars, you break it down, and the consequences for the nation are very severe. And so simply because you have power, you shouldn't feel that you can ride roughshod over your opponents and over the principles of democracy. And so I stand with the principles that are being espoused by the minority in Parliament, and they are doing a good job at it. And we want to support all the principles that they are fighting over.
Dr. Muhammad Bawumia, the MPP's presidential candidate in the 2024 election, the former vice president of the Republic. He's still campaigning to lead the party going into the election of 2028. Earlier, you heard Henry Nana Boakye, the national organizer of the New Patriotic Party. Both men speaking on the development within the Kpandai constituency, where the Electoral Commission says on the 30th of December 2025, it's going to organize fresh elections in the constituency. Hansen, I will start with you. I know the MPP has filed a number of suits in courts challenging this ruling by the Tamale High Court. Run us through what the party is seeking.
So the party has filed the stay of execution, which we're told have been heard at the High Court. And this stay of execution, we're told the ruling will be delivered somewhere next week. Apart from this, there's a notice of appeal that has been filed indicating that it will appeal the decision of the High Court. We are yet to hear from lawyers of Matthew Nyundam and the party whether they've indeed filed the appeal process itself, but for the notice of appeal, we know that it has been filed. They've also filed a judicial review question at the Supreme Court, seeking to quash the ruling of the High Court on the basis that the judge didn't have jurisdiction to hear the matter. And so on the substantive appeal, the argument that we've heard from lawyers affiliated to Matthew Nyundam and also lawyers affiliated to the NPP are that the plaintiff in the matter, that is the NDC's candidate, went to court seeking for 41 polling stations to be declared invalid, but the judge rather declared 150 polling stations invalid. They argue that they don't know of any sort of rule that allows the judge to give the plaintiff more than he has asked for. And they go further to contend that even with the 41 polling stations, they don't believe that the plaintiff, that's the NDC candidate, was able to adduce evidence enough to show that there were irregularities that affected the votes that each candidate attained during the election. And for the judicial review case at the Supreme Court, the fundamental point they make is that the judge lacked jurisdiction to hear the matter in the first place. Now, when it comes to parliamentary election petitions, you can challenge them within 21 days after the results are gazetted. Their argument is that if you take rulings of the Supreme Court in the Akwetia matter, where the former MP, that's the NDC's candidate then, was challenging the election of the late NPP MP for Akwetia Neskumi, a question arose as to when the results of the 2024 election, where certain constituencies were in contention, were gazetted. And they argued that the court came to a conclusion that it was December 24 that the results were gazetted. However, they argued that the NDC candidate in Pandai, though Kpandai was captured in that Gazette document of December 24, it was on January 25, 2025 that he went to court, arguing that he went to court after the 21 days for which you can challenge the parliamentary election results. And so it is the reason they will be at the Supreme Court next week, December 16, to argue out their case as to why the Supreme Court, just on the face value of that, should quash the decision of the High Court. The NDC, on the other hand, argued that the result was gazetted on January 6. And so if you run January 6 with January 25, then they are still within the 21-day period for which you can file an election petition. The NPP has disagreed, which is their right to do so. But I think one point that we've had issues with is to the manner and how they seem to have disagreed with the court. Because I remember while the NPP was in government and the NDC sometimes sought to attribute certain considerations either than law for which the courts make determinations, the NPP were quick to indicate to the NDC that the judiciary and the courts are the last hope for Ghanaians if all other institutions fail. And in all our activities, Ghanaians should be cautious and hesitant enough not to malign the court in such a way that we would reduce the respect that Ghanaians have for the court. And so it was quite disturbing to hear senior members of the bar and also senior members of the NPP speak in a manner that maligns the court and also contradicts the point they were making while they were in government. But if you consider how the representation in this matter has been, it was until the decision was made before we heard the party saying that they referred the matter to the party's legal committee to deal with it, and that is Gary Nimako coming in. And for me, I think that shows a certain form of, for want of better words, as though they left Martin Yindam to his fate after the elections, even though they knew that his results were being challenged. The party as a whole didn't add their machinery to him and left him to fight. And to this end, when the results have been annulled, it is now that they are bringing in their legal decks. I mean, this is not to say that the lawyer who represented Matthew Yindam is not good enough. But if after the original case and you're going on appeal and other proceedings, you see it wise to bring in Gary Nimako and the party's legal team, I think that the party ought to have started with Gary in the first place, because that is the reason you have a legal team in the first place. I mean, we saw the NDC legal team members in Pandai when the decision was given. Our very own good friend, Nick Pakosamo Ado, was there. And so if you look at the both situations, you get to understand that the NPP after the election, despite the fact that you had few seats and those seats were in trouble, decided to look the other way and do other things. Perhaps their attention of holding a new presidential primaries might have taken their energies, and that resulted in the situation that we have here. And this is the time we saw the action by the minority MPs in Parliament. I mean, the question I asked myself is, to what end was the action they did in Parliament? Was it to get the clerk to reverse his decision, Obviously, that was the reason they feel that it was it to halt government programs. That day, a host of government programs, including a loan deal, was approved by Parliament without their active participation
of the minority.
Of the minority, and we couldn't get to understand the essence of some of these things and whether they were indeed good for the Ghanaian people. You remember when they started with the appropriations for the various sectors, we all agreed as to how collaborative the various sides were and the inputs the minority were given to us. But on that day, if they sought to disrupt government proceedings, they couldn't do that, and they also made us miss the chance of having that other eye to look at the events in Parliament to make sure that the Ghanaian people are enjoying or are benefiting eventually out of it. If it is to boost morale among MPP members, I'm thinking that is a wrong forum. If they want to boost morale, they should go to Pandai and perhaps help Martin Yindam to campaign. So all in all, when you look at it, you get to agree that that action in Parliament was needless to that extent. And the EC's decision for a rerun, I think that we can agree that this might be the first time we will be having an election of a constituency in dispute before the entire process is over. Because in the case of Jachi Kwesen, which is the most recent example you can give, he lost at the High Court, went to the Court of Appeal, lost on procedural grounds. Even at that, the EC didn't organize the election. Then the NPP found an interpretation question to the Supreme Court. He was injuncted. Still at that, the seat was left vacant until the Supreme Court delivered its ruling
on it,
or its judgment on the matter before there was a by-election. The Article 99 of the Constitution, which gives room for challenging parliamentary elections, says that you can challenge parliamentary elections at the High Court with the option of going to the Court of Appeal. In Rewell C, we are being told that the Court of Appeal is the final appellate court. There are those who believe that by the structure of that provision, then it means that when the aggrieved party intends to go to the Court of Appeal, perhaps, and even in practice and convention, what we've come to experience, you may want to hold cool tempers down, allow for the appellate proceedings to conclude before you perhaps hold the by-election. But until then, the MPP may...
I'll also let you hold on here and bring Salom into the conversation. That's Hansen Ajima with us here at CTFM and Channel 1 Television. Salom is also here with us here at CTFM and Channel 1 TV. Salom, the argument many people have made, which I've also heard, is that why don't we wait for the entire court processes to be over and then a declaration from the Supreme Court or any other place before the decision to run the election again?
Well, I think it's a fair question and it's a fair comment, and I also tend to think this along the same line, because there's a potential of an absurdity occurring, because if you run the election and then the NDC candidate wins, and the MPP candidate, or MPP MP, Yindam now, former MP, I don't even know how to call him.
Is he a former MP?
Of course, that's what it means. He's no more in Parliament, right? And he goes to the court, and the court, decide that he won the election. Then what happens to the new guy? That becomes an absurdity. That becomes a situation which will be funny on our hands. So I would rather have thought that the two parties would pipe down a bit, dialogue, and see to the conclusion of this. What they can do, perhaps, was to approach the judiciary and approach, using it advisedly, to give them an expeditious trial, expeditious, process or proceeding. It's just an appeal. they can hear that in a short time, and a determination is made, and we make progress. Even in the Supreme Court, matters like this could be heard in 1 day or 2 days or 2 days. Decision is made, and then we make progress. So I think what is happening really is one of those instances where, you know, if you want to be legalistic or you want to apply the legalities, you don't make a lot of progress. Rather, the not so legal means give you more progress and give you more results. So for example, leadership could have engaged in this. If leadership had engaged, and leadership, you know, trusting of each other, engaged, and they said, no, this is what we do in the national interest. This is ABC. This is, you know, XYZ. When you look at this critically, we risk reaching this conclusion, which may not be good for us or which may be good for the country. So as leaders, let's put our heads together, influence our parties, let them think along this line, and let's move this country forward. This would have been the mark of leadership from both sides. But we have a situation where the leadership of both sides don't appear to be seen eye to eye. Some enjoy the theatrics, others also enjoy some other things. This is where we are when our leaders fail the people. The clerk notifies EC of vacancy in Parliament. EC will go ahead and announce the date, and they've gone ahead to announce that the election will happen. And if Nindam wins, well, matter close. But if he doesn't win, and it could so happen that he won't win because the NDC is on a roll. I mean, the election results, it was about 3,000 difference. And you could easily work around that. Party in government, incumbency, you could easily work around that, and then your candidate wins, like we saw in Akwetia. So that could happen. That's something that can easily happen. You know, he goes to court, he wins. Then what happens? Or the court will have to look at the election results and align their ways. I think, you know, we could have done better. This also is, you know, evidence of how we've come as a country in terms of our inability to lead when the time comes. So, for example, the NDC and the MPP, are there elders in those parties? Are there statesmen in those parties where statesmen can call themselves together and say, no, this is what we think? You know, yes, you have the right to do this, but is it necessary or is it beneficial to do that? How about we look at it this way? And they go back as statesmen and influence their parties rally around that national position, and then we make progress. That is missing. Who are the statesmen? Where are the statesmen? They are talking, shouting, jabbing each other here and there. So the country, you know, in that sense, doesn't appear to have leaders. If John Mahama talks, he's a president of the country, but he's very political now by virtue of his position. Nana Akufo-Addo, yes, statesman, but he's very political now. So anything that these two gentlemen say will be viewed differently. But we need statesmen who have transcended party politics by virtue of how they've conducted themselves in the past, and even how people see them today. The question is, do we have such people? I mean, do we have such people? Do we have leaders who can rise and speak, and you won't really read politics in what they are saying? You will take it for the merit or demerit of what they are saying. That is where I think Ghanaians must begin, you know, looking. We don't appear to have these people. Even if you have them, they fear to speak, because when they speak, the small boys and girls who now enjoy politics and social media, etc., will come after them. And why would they speak when the parties will allow the dogs, attack dogs, to hurt or injure them? That is a problem. Kufuor tried it before, but what did we see? We saw party people attacking him. Some even went to his house to block his house, not to come out to attend the function, etc. We saw it was done to Kwame Pianim when that Senchikon forum or so was organized. That was a national forum. He attended as a statesman. That problem came, you know, and it happens every now and then. You know, we should now begin to think that, do we have leaders in this country who have transcended party politics, who can talk to bring things, you know, to alignment in a certain manner? I'm not seeing that. The conduct of the minority MPs, the least said about that, the better. I fail to understand what they were trying to do. In the first place, your numbers are not enough to do anything meaningful in terms of votes. It's a majority parliament we have, and it's a majoritarian system we have.
Call it.
But these guys have a lot more numbers than you. So the way you can be heard is to rehearse your arguments, research your arguments, and come out better. We say the 2001 Parliament was the best, or one of the best, because the guys in there did the work. Babin was there, Akufo-Addo was there, Kwamina Bartels was there, all those guys were there. They did the work, and even though the MPP was in the minority then, they did the work, and the work they did made them come back in 2001, or made them win power for the first time in 2000. In 2000 came to power in 2001. That is what Avendo Makin should be leading his colleagues to do, not to be engaged in a lot of the theatrics which do not bring much apart from sound bites and all of that. I think he has to lead the people. He has to lead his colleagues well, and some of them are not really pleased with how he does. They need to sit him down. Hey, we think you are doing well in this respect, but in the other respect, you are not doing. You may be doing well, appealing to the party core, which is important sometimes. But there's a larger group, or there's some critical group of people out there. You necessarily need to win power. Are you winning those people by your actions and how you are dealing with things? Majority will want these things passed, like we saw 2 days ago. Whilst they were making the noise, standing there, they were also passing the things. That's what they are there to do. They are there to advance government business, and we saw them do exactly that. You can't blame them, So I think the engagement could be better, and this Parliament must make some key decisions that will bring discipline to bear. The issue about the vetting chaos, we've not heard anything. The Avendo Makin privileges committee early days yet, but I'm not sure much is happening in that respect, and people think nothing really may happen. We will need some key things happening in this Parliament, so people can be serious and people can sit up. But from how we are proceeding, I'm afraid we may be running in circles and may not make much progress in the end.
Salam, thank you very much. Salam with us here.
Just a short one.
We need to pay some.
Yeah, just a short one. I'm told by the MPP secretariat that the lawyer who handled the matter is indeed a member of the legal team. Okay. However, there were perhaps some breaking communication between him and the National Secretariat.
He's as a member of the communication, or as a lawyer?
As a member, we are told that he's a member of the National Legal Team, stationed in Tamale.
Okay.
But perhaps what we are told is that I can't answer.
Yes, but that's a real question. That's a real question.
So this is because I had made an earlier point that I didn't see the legal team involved, and the reaction I'm getting, and it's just right to put that reaction out there, that they say that he is a member of the legal team. Yeah,
but then the next question is, because there are a lot of lawyers in the MPP, so-called legal team. We need to pay. And they are MPP people, so and they have sympathies. Was he engaged as a lawyer, as a friend, or the party assigned him to the case? There are two different.
I need to go for a break. When we come back, we'll continue this argument. Just watching what the papers are saying, coming to you live from our studios here in your car. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be back.
Technology has helped various caregivers and professionals in the circles of autism to enhance their skills.
It will enhance their social interaction through virtual meetings.
The cost of the equipment needs to be made affordable, cheaper, so that people could use it and access it.
A lot of people can use, we are able to use shortcode, which is that once you have average network to even send SMS, it is able to answer certain questions.
People at the rural end should not be left out, because that would actually reduce this rural-urban migration.
Welcome to EdTech Monday. This is a platform for education technology discussions, and we have a focus on policymakers, entrepreneurs, and educational ecosystem. EdTech Monday is a platform created by the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with Mest Africa to bring EdTech entrepreneurs, policy stakeholders, and government together to deliberate on important issues within EdTech.
Watch EdTech Mondays on Mondays at 7 p.m. Brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with Mest Africa, only on Channel 1 TV.
You're welcome back. You're still watching what the papers are saying. Coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. I am Sami. We have two of my colleagues in the studio with me, Hansen Ajiman and Selom Adoni, helping us with the analysis, discussion, and conversation on the media issues or issues that dominated media discussions in the course of the week. We've dealt with the first one, which has to do with the decision of the Electoral Commission to rerun the parliamentary election in the Kpandai constituency on the 30th of December 2025. Now we move to the office of the special prosecutor because this week, two NDC members of parliament in leadership in the House, talking about the majority leader Mahama Yarega and the majority chief whip, we're talking about Roxy Nelson, the film report, yet to table a motion before the House, calling this the private members' motion, calling for the repeal of the office of the special prosecutor bill that saw to the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. Earlier, the two gentlemen arguing in Parliament that the office has lost its relevance, and so there was a need, or the time has come for the office to be scrapped. Now, when this issue came up, the President of the Republic, through the Minister of State in charge of government communication, Felix Kwatchefos, issued a statement directing that the President has requested the two members of Parliament to withdraw the private members' motion because he believed that the special prosecutor needs more time and some space to work. Earlier, the President had met members of the National Peace Council where he gave some backing to the work of the special prosecutor and the office itself, saying that it is the only institution that is dedicated to fight corruption and that it should be given time to work, and then the call for it to be scrapped is a bit premature.
I think it's premature to call for the closure of that office. The unique thing about that office is it is the only anti-corruption agency that has prosecutorial powers to be able to prosecute themselves without going through the Attorney General. And so people had mistrust for the Attorney General because the Attorney General normally is a member of government and is a minister of state. And so they believe that the Attorney General will be very reluctant to prosecute his own. But if there's an independent office like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it won't matter who you are. So I think we should give them a little time. Of course, people want to see, more prosecutions and more results. And so I'll just urge the OSP to speed up, some of these investigations and, show people that the office is still very relevant.
President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama. Salam, I'll start this one with you. Now, the President has given what people will say the confidence as far as the work of the special prosecutor is concerned, and even asking the two members of Parliament to withdraw or put on hold the private members' motion to seek the repeal of the office of the special prosecutor bill. You feel this is something to go with?
Yes, I think it calms all nerves and it kind of settles the matter. This whole thing about the OSP or the SP, in some instances, people lumping the two together. The office of the special prosecutor, do we need an office like this? I think we do, given the peculiar nature of our politics and the peculiar nature of our constitutional democracy. The fact that the AG is a Minister for Justice, the AG is an appointee or a minister, and you ask that minister who sits around the cabinet with his colleagues to start prosecuting his colleagues. Naturally, it's not an easy thing to do. So if somebody is unable to prosecute his colleagues, it doesn't necessarily mean the person is weak, but it simply means the arrangement is not working because it is a difficult thing to do. After politics, there is life. So if you prosecute your colleagues while you are in office, what happens to you after politics? A lot of people will think around that, and it's a very difficult thing to do. Also, when you are in a group with somebody, you kind of see things the same way. So it's quite difficult seeing things the other way when you are together in a group with people. Very few people are able to do that, and we do not make major decisions based on on outliers. I mean, the decision should be based on the general, you know. So yes, I think it settles the matter. It should give the OSP, the office and its people the confidence to continue their work, to know that the president supports them, even though they have to be independent. I mean, it's only the recent matters, I think, were occasioned by, you know, some occurrences in the last few weeks or months, which people think the office hasn't, you know, discharged itself creditably with. The issue about Kenofuyata, the issue about Cecilia Dapai and all of that, and some key anti-corruption or corruption-related matters. People feel that the OSP gives a lot, the SP gives a lot of hope, and in the end leaves everybody hanging or drops everybody, and that is a major matter. If you look at this election, the election really was won on the fight of corruption as one of the major planks, of course, economy, etc. But the plank, a major plank, was corruption, the oral, and all of those. So there is expectation that people that many people think have caused harm to the country by plundering the state coffers, etc., must be brought to book. Of course, the fact that you have an allegation doesn't mean that the person should go to jail necessarily. The person must be given his day in court. But they feel that the office has been slow in doing that, the office has not been efficient in doing so, the office has not done well in respect of that. The office pushes back and say, no, we've done many other things, we've saved the country a lot of money, etc. The issue about Kenofuyata, the office says they were powerless. And others say, no, if we were powerless, did you let the public know? Did you release a statement that you wanted to do this, you were stopped? Did you write to this person that let this be done and it was not done? Yeah. You know, so is it after the fact you are now coming to tell us that you were powerless? You know, and all of these, you know, back and forth have not helped the office in recent times. And the office's own showing, its own outing, in some cases, appeared like the OSP had an axe to grind with certain individuals who were opposed to his work or who criticized him for doing one or two things. The Parliamentary handling was a case in point. The Martin Pebu recent arrest and detention, very needless, was a case in point, and many other things. You know, so this may be tangential, but perception is important. This may be very tangential, perception may be very important. People are not happy with how Ken was, quote unquote, allowed to leave the country when they say office was, I mean, the SP or the office looked on, did nothing, according to people. SP said they did a lot of things, but what is important is that those things you did, the public really did not know, and those things you did not stop the gentleman from traveling. You know, and now we are faced with the difficulty of having to extradite him. I can tell you that we are not seeing Ken in Ghana now, we are not seeing him tomorrow. I mean, the extradition process is a very laborious one. Why wasn't MPP able to bring back Sedina Mationu? That was an opposition person who had been jailed by the court in absentia. That should be very easy to do. But why haven't we been able to extradite him? The MPP, Godfrey Dame and co. were in power. They could not get Sedina Mationu into the country. It's a very difficult process to do, especially when they're dealing with countries like the US, etc. So that here's a case, somebody has been jailed, though. We've been unable to bring her back. The guy wasn't even charged when you were issuing red alerts and all of that. Notice, I mean, you've not charged him. His plea is not even been taken because it's not there. The trial hasn't started. It's a difficult process. Of course, if the US wants us to do that, it's easy for them to have their way because that is the US and Ghana always looks up to them. Ghana wants things. So you will do it. But if you want it, and indeed now, the case they are making is that it is political persecution. And political persecution is one of the exceptions to extradition. If the person is able to show that there's political persecution, or they want him other than something, I mean, they want him apart from something they have advertised or said, and he has proof of that, they can look at it and give him justice. You know, now they've cited disagreements between the AG's office and the OSP's office. That, I mean, the two sides don't even know what they are doing, so it is purely political. They just want to get him in jail, etc. You know, I don't see him coming today. I don't see him coming tomorrow. And I mean, can you imagine if he comes and they charge him? You think he'll be granted bail? he will not be admitted to bail, because the argument against him will be that it's a flight risk. So being a flight risk is one of the reasons why the court will refuse you bail. He will not be granted bail. And even if he is admitted to bail, his bail conditions will be so onerous that he may not even be able to meet the NSA guys, the National Service Authority guys. They are still struggling to meet their bail conditions. That's even those small fishes, you call them. And Ken Ofurata. I mean, I don't see him coming anytime soon. I'll actually be surprised if he comes to Ghana to stand trial. He won't come. Maybe he'll be jailed in absentia. He will leave out the term. Later, he may come back to Ghana. That is if he wants to. And in this day and age, people buy citizenship. If you have some amount of money or some sums of money, you can buy citizenship of other countries. He may do so. Now that especially the Interpol, shackles are off him, he is free to travel and go to places. He may buy citizenship somewhere. He will go there, live there, come back many years later if he so wishes. So, I mean, these are things people are not happy with the OSP, are not happy with the OSP with. So, it's kind of his connections. The fact that, I mean, Godfrey Dame was Attorney General, his colleague who suggested him, he was appointed. People cite his relationship with key people in the Gabi and Co. But these are lawyers. Lawyers are colleagues first before, I mean, they engage in the legal tussle, etc. So if somebody is my colleague, it doesn't mean I will not do my work. So I don't really buy the argument of the relationships. I mean, he's shown that he can do the work. Yeah. But it so happens that he goes so hard, carries you along, you are so optimistic, and in the end, I mean, he leaves you hanging or he drops you. Like the Sicilian Dapa matter, for example. He went in so hard, raided a house, did a search, did all of that, and in the end, I mean, we don't know where the matter is. I mean, that he didn't have jurisdiction to look into all of that. And that appears to be, and people think that is not the way to go, and that he has key cases he's looking at, and there's no much progress on all of those cases. People want to see justice, and it is recently that the charges, were leveled against the people formally, and it's today that they went to court, for the first time, and so people are not generally happy with that. Ghanaians had expectations of the OSP, and it was because Ghanaians were fed up with corruption. 2016, and we saw it again in 2024, and we saw how Ghanaians hailed the decision of Akufo-Addo to appoint Martin Amidu as special prosecutor. That office has actually suffered. He also tried, and there was an anticlimax. He resigned. We saw Kisi, or we are seeing Kisi, who appears to be strong in his own right, but I mean, he is having issues. The office has to be supported. And of course, the office should be separated from the person. So the question may be, where does this leave the issue of the petitions for his removal? The petition for his removal must be looked at, based on the merits. The petition must be looked at based on the merit. If there's no merit in there, dismiss the petitions. If there are merits in there, deal with the petition and deal with it to its logical conclusion. But I think the office must be left to work. One thing Kisi has succeeded in doing is now, at least if you want to engage in something, you know that there's an office called the OSP that may come after you. And that in criminal jurisprudence is deterrence. It is key, very important in criminal jurisprudence. He's achieving that. I also want him to look at the communication of the office. I think the office comes up sometimes too combative. They are too combative, as if the whole world is against them. No, you are providing a service to us. Maybe we don't understand some things. Maybe our commentary is based on a certain lack of understanding. Educate us, provide us information. Being combative makes it appear like you are being defensive and having something to hide. No, it's a public office. And once a public office, there are 33 or 34 million Ghanaians who will all have a say. Will you go answering each of them? You are doing your work. Focus on your work. But give us information every now and then. And the information you give to us must be respectful. It must be decent. It must not be as if you are fighting us. You are not fighting us. We put you there for a reason. We want you to solve a problem. And if you think that the problem is not being solved the way we thought you would solve it, you have to come back and tell us, no, it is A, B, and C in a manner that we will find very, very, very respectful. And not just, I mean, I think we can do better. In terms of this private members bill, two things. I wonder how.
In 1 minute.
I wonder
So
I wonder how all of that happened. You know, I think it shows the independent mindedness of the MPs. That's one which may be a good thing. It also shows the influence of the executive. So now, even though last week we saw the whole of Parliament was for scrapping the office of the special prosecutor, and now the president has spoken, and the people are beginning to rearrange themselves. You know, it shows the independent mindedness of some of the MPs, Ayariga and Dapamapo. So does it mean they did not even discuss this with the party or informally with the president, which ordinarily should have been the case? And if that was the case, why didn't the president express those views with them or to them in the meeting? Why did they have to come out? Why did they have to also express the intention of tabling the private members bill if that's been done? You know, I think it's maybe it's good, maybe not, but at least it shows that there's some independence. Parliamentarians want to do what they think is right in their view, and also shows the strength of our executive and how when the executive speaks, people rearrange themselves.
Okay, all right. How's it?
Beginning with the MPs who are kicking against this, I mean, from the point of Muhammad Yarga, it's interesting because he was the first person to be actually investigated by the office under Martin Amidu. I've read somewhere that his opposition to the office actually predates its existence, and during the debate in Parliament before the office came to being, he actually opposed it. But I mean, if you look at it from the point of what Martin Amidu sought to do with Ayariga, in that particular case, I think a loan to purchase a vehicle, and then he was supposed to buy one vehicle, and then he bought two vehicles, and the special prosecutor then had issues with it and had to investigate him. And I think that is even though in that instance some people felt that the special prosecutor then could have looked at other things, but the point is to make sure that at every point in time, political actors and politically exposed persons are dealing accordingly with the law and what is expected of them. And that is why the conversation about the constitutionality of the office in the first place and the utility of it, I think, should be resolved in favor of the office of the special prosecutor. Yes, we've heard those who say that Article 88 gives full prosecutorial powers to the office, the Attorney General, but we also know that the bill was structured in a manner that the Attorney General delegated powers to the special prosecutor, and by extension the office of the special prosecutor. And I think that the point the president makes, that is too early, summarizes what I was making last week, that it's been 7 years in existence. 7 years is not enough to really determine whether to maintain the office or not. And I also maintain that we should at least allow Kissie Jabin to conclude or complete his 7-year tenure, so that we can in practice know what it means for a special prosecutor to be imposed for the entire 7 years, and how that in itself promotes the independence the office is underpinned with. Because we have Martin Amidu, who came in after 3 years, decided to go out voluntarily. And then we have Kissie Jabin, he's in 4 years, and because we are not happy with how things are going, we want to kick him out. If it is not a serious breach of the Constitution, some illegality perhaps committed by him or by his omission to do something or else, and it's just a matter of we not being happy with his performance, I think that we should rather allow him to complete the 7 years, so that we can in fullness understand what it means for a special prosecutor to exist for the 7 years. But it also pushes the point that the office and the special prosecutor must match up to the level that Ghanaians want. The substance of the office of the special prosecutor, and for some people they feel that the special prosecutor looks to the optics of it, and so on the face value you see him, you see the office, it appears they are doing more, but then substantively and issues of critical importance to the people, they are not making any headways. And particularly the way he's handled issues. Solomon has touched on how he tends to raise people's hopes and then dash them anyhow. And day in, day out, you begin to create, perhaps even conspiracy theories in the minds of people that is he really working for us or working to protect certain people? Because then if you touch it, and I think that there's an argument I've heard the Deputy Attorney General make at some point, that, for instance, when you talk about Ken Ofori-Atta, the NDC came to power on the argument of persistent corruption under the Nana government. And they were easy to point accusing fingers at Ken Ofori-Atta. The biggest of the cases that perhaps they believe that Ken Ofori-Atta is involved is the SML case.
Yeah.
And this is the matter that the special prosecutor is handling. And to what end have we seen this matter? Casually go out there and ask anybody, if you were Ken Ofori-Atta, will you return back to Ghana? A lot of people will give you the answer that they are not going to return to Ghana, even though we would urge on Ken Ofori-Atta to return to Ghana and to defend his legacy as a long-time investment banker, and also having served as a finance minister, to defend his legacy. But the truth of the matter is that not many people, if they are in such a situation, will voluntarily decide to return back to the country. You can also talk about a number of cases where the special prosecutor seems not to have handled the matters appropriately. If you look at the Jabin MCE case, you look at the Cecilia Dapaah matter, and even with the PPA scandal matter, recently we've seen reactions from the key witness in that case, Manasseh Azuri, saying that he testified for close to a year only for the charges to be dropped and for the same charges to be filed against before the court. When you do this, then you tend to shift public opinion to those who want you out and the office scrapped.
Hansen, thank you very much. Hansen Ajema with us here at City FM and Channel 1 Television, and Salom Adonu also with us here at City FM and Channel 1 Television. We brought you another exciting edition of What the Papers Are Saying that came to you live from our studios here in Accra. So we'll come your way again. May the good Lord be with us all.